Good afternoon, everyone. This is Thursday, the 19th of January. My name is Jeshil, and today I'm joined by Uday and Bhargav, and we'll be talking about the upcoming general elections in Pakistan. And in particular, we'll be talking about how it will be affecting the business environment in the country. As most of us are aware, the general elections would be held on February 8, and nearly 127 million people are expected to vote in this particular election. So, this particular election would elect members of the National Assembly as well as the members of the various provincial assemblies in the country. Just to give a brief background on the elections were already postponed multiple times. And by the looks of it, we also think that the elections might be postponed again due to the ongoing crises in the country. So we'd be discussing about that. Um, just to start things off, Uday, could you give us a brief overview of the major contestants in the upcoming elections and how you think it might pan out?
Great. So the major parties that are going to be contesting in the upcoming elections are the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, which is led by Shehbaz Sharif. It's interesting that just today or just yesterday, it seems that Nawaz Sharif, who had led Pakistan in 2018 on corruption charges, he's been allowed back into the country. He was facing some corruption charges, but it apparently seems that he's now been allowed to contest in the election. So he's most likely going to be the PMLN candidate. On the other hand, we have the Pakistan People's Party, which is led by Bilawal Bhutto. This is another political dynasty in the country. There's the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party, led by the incarcerated Imran Khan. The party has been broken up, and its members have formed and joined other parties, and the military has actively sought to suppress this party. So I guess these are the main three parties that will be contesting the elections. Of course, we'd have to mention the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan. It'll be interesting to see the prospects of the far-right Islamist party. And as for the most important player in Pakistani politics, it's the military at the end of the day. That's the reason why Nawaz Sharif has been allowed to return back, keeping in mind that Imran Khan was propped up by the military to replace Nawaz Sharif. And when the Imran Khan project failed, we're back to Nawaz right now. So this is how it looks at the moment. Bhargav, any comments on the mess that is Pakistani politics?
Yes, so the two parties, that is Pakistan People's Party and the Pakistan Muslim League, they practically ganged up on Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf or Imran Khan's party with the help of the military. Now that they're heading into a general elections, there seems to be quite a bit of discord between the two parties, though they peacefully agreed without much drama for the date of the elections as well as the overall process with the caretaker government in place led by caretaker Prime Minister Kakar. Now, as far as Imran Khan is concerned, it wouldn't be prudent to expect him to bounce back at this stage. His party is in an absolute disarray, and his top leadership, the party's top leadership, were incarcerated directly or indirectly. It had become a joke sometime back when they disintegrated the party. The leaders would come out with due process and petition to the relevant courts, and they would be arrested again, literally the moment they stepped out of the courthouse. So it has happened with multiple top leaders, and Imran Khan is still incarcerated. So his future doesn't really look bright, and that would be an understatement.
Thank you for that, Bhargav. On the same lines, I would just like to throw another question at you guys, if you don't mind. So we had spoken about the three major parties in Pakistani politics. How do you think the smaller parties would fare in this particular election? Do you think that they would have some role in the new government, or they would continue to be sidelined in the upcoming elections?
It's definitely, at least the way I see it, they're not going to be sidelined. You will need the help of smaller parties such as MQM, the Muhtadida Qawmi movement, and the Jamaat Ulema-e Fazlur, which are on paper smaller parties, but they still command widespread support on the ground. So these parties do have a part to play in forming the coalition government. I don't think any one party will be able to take a majority in itself, and I think Pakistan's democratic history has also shown that it's worked in coalitions at points. Bhargav, correct me if I'm wrong.
I would agree with that categorically. And it depends on the region what we are talking about. For example, MQM has a very strong hold in and around Karachi city, and JULF, led by Fazlur Rahman, he seems to hold strong strongholds in rural Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So we can't really ignore these parties. They may actually play kingmakers if either of the big parties fail to gain majority, which is likely at this point.
Great. So on that note, Jeshul, could you just give a rundown of, the security environment at the time or over the last couple of years in Pakistan and in the run-up to the elections?
Sure, Uday. So, of late, at least over the past 2 years, ever since the Taliban government has taken control of Afghanistan, Pakistan has actually witnessed a massive surge in terrorist attacks, particularly in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And we also have an economic crisis in Pakistan, as most of us are aware. And this economic crisis has invariably increased criminality, even in urban areas. At least before 2 years, we had higher amounts of criminality and violence in rural areas and in riverine areas. But now we are seeing a shift of all of those crime in urban areas. For example, of late, we've seen an increase in armed robberies in Karachi as well as in Lahore. We've seen killings of police officers as well as of security personnel. And this is happening at a very alarming rate. For example, based on government statistics, crime rates have increased by 28.5% in the country last year. So I would definitely say that domestically as well as on the borders, we are seeing high crime rates as well as an increase in terrorism. So one other thing that we need to keep in mind is the economic crisis that's happening in Pakistan. I think Bhargav, could you shed some light on it and how it's actually affecting the society in Pakistan and adding to the...
Certainly, economy continues to be a major concern. It is unlikely to be resolved in the short to medium term. Economic reforms will require long-term structural reforms, which doesn't seem to be being paid any heed to by either of the parties at this point. Now, the Pakistani army is only concerned about preserving their power and ensuring that their dominance continues to be in place in Pakistan across the political spectrum. Now, the problems start with at the top level, at the structural level, and it goes down to chronic ground level, which has basically spiraled into an increased crime rate at the rural as well as urban areas. Now, it starts with the external debt, which is as high as $128 billion as of September 2023. And the UN's report on economic situation and prospects, they have projected that the economy will grow only at 2%. In contrast, Bangladesh, which is of similar size in economy as well as population, they are projected to grow between 6 to 7%. And India is also around the same level. So now we also need to consider that the inflation rate is also pretty high. In December, it was as high as almost 30%. And this doesn't really help the situation at the ground level, as the cost of essentials and the disruption in delivery of these essential services will affect people, especially in the lower strata of the society. which further escalates the situation in terms of security and crime.
I mean, it also affects, the business environment. There have been massive power cuts, and load shedding in the summer for industrial estates around Karachi and different parts of Sindh, for example. Um, there is a fear of investment in Pakistan. You see the Chinese projects getting attacked in Balochistan, and even in Karachi, the Baloch rebels have conducted attacks against Chinese interests and against Pakistan. You see the Tehrik-i-Taliban coming back, and it's spreading from just Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It's said to have camps again around Karachi, and it has conducted attacks in Islamabad. You see new groups coming out of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, likely trained or based with some connections in Afghanistan. But the Pakistani government cannot manage that, as they still are trying to differentiate between good Taliban and bad Taliban, without realizing that the Afghan Taliban and the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan or Pakistani Taliban are, pretty much hand in hand, or they have a very close relationship. So this has been affecting foreign direct investment in Jeshil. I believe you have a few companies that left Pakistan or are cutting down operations in the country because of the security environment and the economic crisis. Could you just give us a few of those?
Sure, Uday. So, if I'm right, in between 2022 to 2023, in that financial year, one of the major players who left the Pakistani market is Shell. So, Shell's exit from the country and decision to like sell all of its like properties to a domestic company was a huge shock. And other companies, foreign companies that are thinking about actually like shifting their businesses to nearby South Asian countries include Procter and Gamble, Oracle Services Pakistan, IBM. All of these like foreign countries, Western countries, as you rightly mentioned, are aware of the growing security threat in the country, and moreover, a few of these companies have outrightly spoken about the poor business environment in the country. They've spoken against the change, the constant changes within the central bank, the constant financial changes in the system. And in a certain point, the WAC companies were unable to import things because the country did not have that much foreign reserves. So I think that goes on to say that the ease of doing business in the country has significantly reduced, and the upcoming elections uh, should definitely bring some change, or this would go towards a downward spiral. Just adding on
Right.
to the, I'm sorry, Uday.
Go ahead.
Just
Adding on.
adding on to the economy section, I would also argue that all is not as bad as it seems, because in January, actually, the IMF approved a $700 million package to Pakistan. The IMF had earlier approved a bigger $3 billion package for Pakistan. And currently, the government is banking on this economic aid to help it sail through the economic crisis. And Bhargav, do you think that this particular trend of getting loans to recover from an economic crisis would bode well for Pakistan on the long run?
Okay, so that needs to be seen in context. As financial aid, as far as financial aid goes, we need to see it with a fair amount of cynicism. And I say that because financial aid in itself is not a positive move. They may have secured financial assistance, but that doesn't really mean anything in the medium to long term. It may help the government tide over the difficult economic situation in the short term, but in the long term, or even in the medium term, it only shows the chronic economic problems the entire structure or the economic structure is undergoing, and the dependence on financial assistance, which seems to be the one constant in Pakistan, doesn't really help anybody. In fact, that's a sign of problems within the economy rather than anything positive about the economy.
Yeah, Just to add to that, some of the IMF conditions, for example, have fomented protests in Pakistan due to increased energy prices and the increased tax collections. So it's not a good sign. So on that note, if just a couple of sentences to summarize from each of you, what's Pakistan looking like in the outlook post-elections?
Okay, so
Stable or continuing to devolve? Go ahead, sorry.
right. So just to sum it up, in the upcoming election season, pre and post election, Pakistan is looking at multiple challenges on practically all fronts. So especially with security, now a new front opening up with Iran, where there was a strategic distance between the two, a respectful distance while they were collaborating on multiple fronts. Now it has gone into an open confrontation, and the same applies to Afghanistan as well. With the election season, the offshoots of Taliban such as TTP are likely to target the election posts or voting booths, and the same applies to crime rate across the country. As far as economy is concerned, whether a new government led by either of the party comes in, or military tries to stifle their freedom or clip their freedom directly or indirectly, doesn't matter. They are looking at really challenging times as far as economy is concerned. So that's my a quick
Right.
roundup.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot for that insight, Bhargav. Jeshul, any
Uh,
closing words?
Yeah, Uday. I think with regards to the upcoming elections in particular, I think the PMLN or Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, they are expected to win based on the current poll data. But however, I'm a bit cynical of how long that would last because Pakistan has a history of political instability. It's not something that we've just seen over the last 5 years. It's been like that since independence. So I think the political instability will continue and opposition parties might be targeted, and we will see a lot of we could see a lot of political violence, especially in the post poll phase. Um, that's it from my side.
Right. So overall, it's going to be a challenging environment for um not only people but businesses to navigate for the upcoming years. So on that note, contact APAC assistance to help with travel or operations in Pakistan. And thank you for listening in. Thanks, Bhargav and Jeshul, for the enlightening conversation. And thank you to our listeners. We'll see you on another day.